Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about
I just want to know why you did it.
Look, I can explain everything. Focus on yourself, not others. Focus on your character, not your reputation. Focus on your blessings, not your misfortunes.
So what are we going to do about the leak in the roof?
I'll call a roofer tomorrow morning.
Hồi xưa là mình bắt được con cá rô đồng bự lắm.
I just don't know what to do anymore.
We'll figure it out together, okay?
Mình có thể làm tất cả mọi việc như nấu ăn, chăm sóc vườn tược và tự tay làm những món đồ thủ công.
I just think it's important to communicate.
I agree. Talking things out helps a lot.
So what do you think of this tea?
oh, it's quite good.
I like it too.
Well, you know, we're trying to figure out the best way to approach this. I think we should just go for it.
The night was quiet, but inside the small house, the air pulsed with unspoken questions. A mother sat by the window, her eyes sharp, waiting for the sound of footsteps outside. When at last her son returned, she caught him with a look that pierced straight through him. Why so late? Her voice carried both worry and suspicion. He shifted uneasily, murmuring the name that had haunted every conversation lately. Tien. At the mention, his mother's brows furrowed. She had heard whispers, scraps of gossip carried on the wind, but tonight she demanded the truth. Giac swallowed hard, his chest tightening as he confessed. Tien was not like others. Once, as a child, she had suffered a cruel accident. That single moment of brokenness had scarred her life, leaving her with a burden no young girl should carry. She could not bear children, and because of it, her past had been one long trial. An ex-husband who abandoned her, a family who cast her aside, and a loneliness that clung like a shadow. His voice cracked as he spoke, each word heavy with pity and love. The mother sat frozen, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles whitened. She had heard rumors, yes, but to hear her son confirm them filled her with both sorrow and dread. For years she had imagined Tien's childlessness was a choice, a mark of happiness in her first marriage. But now, hearing the truth, she realized it was pain hidden beneath silence. Why does she not go to a hospital? She asked quietly. Her son explained, Tien's pride was fragile, her heart too scarred to face such examinations. The idea of being confirmed broken terrified her. The mother's eyes glimmered with a sharp determination. Then you must take her, she said firmly. She spoke of doctors she knew, of treatments whispered about in hushed tones. If you love her, you will not let her suffer alone. Her son's heart throbbed, torn between protecting Tien's fragile spirit and obeying his mother's resolve. He promised, his words thick with emotion, that he would always love Tien, child or no child. Nothing, not even infertility, could change the way his heart beat for her. But the mother pressed harder. Love was not enough, she said. A future meant choices, meant facing truth. If there was hope for healing, they must chase it. If there was not, then at least they would know. She reminded him that happiness was built not only on love, but on courage to endure trials together. Her son nodded, though the fear inside him twisted tighter. He imagined Tien's face, the way shame would darken her eyes if he dared to suggest a doctor. Still, he could not abandon her to despair. Their talk shifted briefly, lighter yet still heavy with the past. The mother mentioned the old house, the place of memories, now empty as the tenants prepared to leave. She spoke of Tet approaching, the new year, and the chance to return. Giac's heart softened, imagining Tien walking through those familiar halls, welcomed not as an outsider, but as family. "Can I bring her home for Tet?" he asked, his voice hushed with hope. The mother smiled, and for the first time that night, her face softened. "Yes," she whispered, "bring her. Let her feel she belongs." But peace never lasts long. In the shadows of a coffee shop, another storm brewed. Toan, a man with his own secret longings, summoned Giac with the weight of jealousy pressing hard in his chest. When they met, the air between them was tense, sharp like glass ready to shatter. Toan's words dripped with accusation. He claimed Giac's love was reckless, unworthy, dangerous for a woman already scarred. His eyes gleamed with a rival's fire as he declared his own feelings for Tien. Giac stiffened, fury flashing in his eyes. He did not flinch, did not waver. "I love her," he said, his voice cutting through the smoke of the cafe. "I will always love her, and no one, not you, not anyone, has the right to tear us apart." The words slammed between them like thunder, silencing the murmurs of nearby patrons. Toan's jaw clenched, his face pale with anger and envy, but Giac did not stay to watch. He rose, his chair scraping the floor, and walked away with his heart burning like fire. Later, alone beneath the fading glow of streetlights, Giac felt the weight of every battle he had chosen. His mother's expectations, Tien's silent wounds, Toan's threats, each one pressed down like stones, yet within him there was a core that refused to break. He thought of Tien's smile, fragile but radiant, and he knew, whatever storms came, he would stand. For her, for them. The morning sun spilled across the garden, but the brightness did little to lift the heaviness pressing on Giac's chest. He clutched the bouquet of flowers tighter than he intended, petals trembling as though they too sensed the storm inside him. When he knocked softly on the gate, Tien appeared, her eyes widening at the sight of him and the blooms. For a fleeting moment, light returned to her face, delicate as the break of dawn. He offered the flowers without words, and she accepted them, her fingers brushing his with a tenderness that ignited his resolve. They walked together through the garden, the earth soft beneath their feet, the air carrying the fragrance of blossoms and damp soil. Tien bent to touch the petals of a young plant, her face softening in ways Giac had rarely seen. He wanted to freeze the moment, to preserve her smile against the darkness that always threatened. "You are my strength," he whispered. She blinked, startled, then shook her head. "No, Giac, I am broken. You deserve someone whole." His hand found hers, firm, unyielding. "You are not broken to me. You are the reason I breathe." They planted flowers side by side, the soil clinging to their hands, a shared labor that felt like a vow. Giac told her of dreams, bricks to build a new garden, walls to shelter her, a life carved not from pity, but from love. Tien's eyes glistened with tears she tried to hide, her heart torn between gratitude and fear. She confessed quietly, "When you speak of the future, I want to believe, but the past chains me." Giac leaned closer, his voice fierce. "Then let me be the one to break those chains." As they worked, Giac revealed the truth of his conversation with his mother. Tien stiffened at the mention, her breath caught. He spoke gently, telling her his mother's heart was open, her acceptance real, her willingness to stand by them stronger than the world's cruel whispers. Tien's shoulders trembled. For years she had carried shame like a brand, convinced no family would welcome her again. "She accepts me?" she asked, disbelief thick in her voice. Giac nodded, his eyes steady. "Yes, she accepts you because she sees the woman I love, not the scars you fear." The words broke her. Tears spilled freely, soaking into the soil as she clung to the flowers in her lap. "I am lucky," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Lucky to have you. Lucky to be seen even when I feel invisible." Giac gathered her hands in his, pressing them against his chest. You are more than lucky. You are loved, and that love will never leave you. The promise rang through the garden, stronger than the wind, deeper than the roots of the earth itself. But fate never let them rest for long. That evening, Toan appeared again, lurking at the edge of the street, his eyes dark with hunger and bitterness. He watched the two of them from a distance, his fists clenched, his jaw tight. Every laugh they shared, every glance, fed his envy until it curdled into rage. He muttered to himself, words twisted with spite. She should be mine. He cannot give her what I can. The night air carried his vow, silent yet sharp, like the prelude to a storm. Meanwhile, inside the home, Tien tried to ignore the shadows creeping around her. She prepared tea, her hand steadying at last, while Giac sat close, telling her of plans for Tet. He spoke of the old house, of returning to familiar walls filled with warmth and tradition. Come with us, he said softly. Celebrate as family. Let this new year begin not with sorrow, but with hope. Tien's eyes filled again, her lips trembling. The thought of being welcomed, of sitting at a family's table without shame, felt like a dream too fragile to touch. Yet the invitation glowed within her like a hidden flame. Her answer came not in words, but in the way she leaned against him, her head resting briefly on his shoulder. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future unchained by the past. Giac felt her weight, light yet profound, and silently vowed he would never let her carry pain alone again. He kissed the top of her head, whispering promises that the night carried like secrets. The next days blurred with preparations. Giac visited the market for bricks, his mind filled with visions of the garden he and Tien would build together. He ran his hands over the rough surfaces, seeing not just clay and stone, but the walls of a sanctuary where love could bloom safe from judgment. At home, Tien tended the flowers he had given her, her care tender, as though each petal were a symbol of her slowly healing heart. But beneath the surface, unease stirred. Toan's resentment festered, his presence a shadow neither of them yet noticed. He whispered to others, sowing doubt, painting Giac as reckless, unfit to protect a woman already wounded. Rumors began to curl like smoke through the village, whispers of doom that reached even the ears of Giac's mother. Yet she remained steadfast, her belief in her son and Tien unshaken. Love is not for the weak, she muttered, her eyes sharp, and my son is strong. One evening, Giac found Tien sitting in the garden alone, her face lifted to the stars. He sat beside her, the silence between them heavy yet intimate. What do you see up there? He asked softly. She smiled faintly, pointing. I see lights that burned even after darkness fell. Maybe love is like that, fragile, but it endures. His hand closed over hers, his voice fierce. Then let us be like the stars. Even when the world tries to extinguish us, we will burn. Tien turned to him, her tears shimmering in the starlight. Promise me, she whispered. Promise you will not let go, even if the world turns against us. Giac's voice shook as he answered, I promise, no matter the cost. Their vow sealed itself in the quiet night, as though the universe itself bore witness. The night before the Lunar New Year, the village streets glowed with lanterns, yet in Giac's chest, a storm brewed. He had promised Tien safety, love, and a future, but shadows lurked closer than ever. Toan had been seen wandering near the garden, his face dark with envy. Whispers said he drank heavily, muttering about love stolen and honor lost. Giac lay awake, staring at the ceiling beams, every muscle taut with dread. He will not harm her, he whispered to himself. But fear lingered, cold and sharp, gnawing at the edges of his hope. Tien, though unaware of Toan's latest mutterings, carried storms of her own. As she prepared her modest belongings for the celebration, her hands trembled. The thought of stepping into Giac's family home, of being welcomed as his beloved, filled her with both joy and terror. She remembered her past, doors closed, voices cold, eyes full of judgment. Could she truly walk into warmth again? Her reflection in the mirror wavered with tears. "Will they see me?" she whispered, "or only my scars?" The next morning, Giac's mother greeted them with open arms. Her voice rang clear as she called Tien daughter, not outsider. For the first time in years, Tien felt the sting of belonging, her heart aching with fragile relief. They shared laughter over steaming bowls of rice, the warmth of the family table wrapping her like a long-lost blanket. Yet beneath the joy, Giac's eyes flicked often to the door, the weight of Toan's looming shadow never leaving him. That shadow struck sooner than expected. As dusk settled, Toan appeared at the gate, his eyes bloodshot, his steps unsteady. His voice, thick with drink and fury, shattered the evening peace. "To Tien," he shouted, "you cannot waste your life on him." The room froze. Tien's breath caught, her fingers clutching the edge of the table. Giac rose, fire blazing in his eyes. "Leave," he ordered, his voice low and dangerous. But Toan sneered, staggering closer. "You don't deserve her. You'll never give her happiness." The confrontation erupted like a storm breaking. Giac pushed him back, but Toan lunged again, his fists flying, his words slurred with venom. The family rushed to intervene, cries piercing the night. Tien screamed, her voice raw with terror, as the two men clashed in the yard, dust rising beneath their struggle. Each blow carried more than anger. It carried years of pain, jealousy, and unspoken desperation. Blood stained the earth, echoing the cost of love. At last, breathless and bruised, Giac stood over Toan, his chest heaving. His voice roared into the night. "Love is not a prize to be stolen. It is a choice, and she has chosen." Toan spat blood, his glare burning, but the strength had left him. Neighbors pulled him away, muttering about shame, about madness. His shouts faded into the darkness, leaving only silence and the pounding of Giac's heart. Tien rushed forward, her hands trembling as she touched Giac's torn cheek. "Why?" she sobbed. "Why risk yourself?" His hand covered hers, his voice hoarse but steady. "Because you are worth every fight. Because I would bleed 1,000 times rather than see you doubt your worth again." His words carved into her, stripping away the last of her fear. For the first time, she let herself believe fully, without chains, without shame. In the days that followed, whispers spread again. Some pitied Toan, others condemned him, but most spoke of Giac's devotion. Slowly, the tide turned. Where once Tien had been judged, now she was seen as the woman who had endured, who had found love despite the cruelty of fate. Neighbors began to greet her warmly, their smiles hesitant but genuine. The scars of the past still lingered, but they no longer defined her. Giac kept his promise. Together, they visited doctors after the new year, not with desperation, but with courage. The results mattered less than the act itself, for in facing the truth, they proved love stronger than fear. Tien wept softly in the sterile halls, but Giac's hand never left hers. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "we are enough." Back in the garden, bricks stacked high, they began building the future they had dreamed. Each wall rose not just from stone, but from resilience, from vows sealed in fire and blood. Flowers bloomed where tears once fell, and laughter echoed where silence once reigned. Nee, the child from next door, often visited, her giggles filling the air, proof that joy had found them again. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Tien stood in the garden, her hands brushing the blossoms they had planted together. Giac joined her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly, fear flickering in his eyes. She turned to him, her smile steady, her voice clear. "No, I regret only the years I wasted believing I was unworthy. But you, proved me wrong. His eyes glistened, his lips brushing her hair. Then let this be our beginning. The orchard seemed to hum in agreement, leaves whispering blessings, flowers swaying like dancers. The night no longer felt threatening. It felt alive, full of promise. The future would not be free of storms. They both knew it. But now, storms no longer terrified them, for they had faced jealousy, judgment, and fear, and they had survived. Together, they were unbreakable. And as the new moon rose, silver and pure, Tien realized her scars had not destroyed her. They had led her here, to a love fierce enough to heal.